Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series as we move along through the week. Thank you again for those tuning in, checking in, downloading the podcast. We appreciate that. We continue to grow the podcast in and around the Bay Area, outside of the Bay Area, through the United States, and even outside internationally. So thank you again for all the listeners. Thank you for those that are passing the good news around. Hopefully we're continuing to add value to your lives and educating you and sharing the information about real estate. We'll continue to do that. Before we get started, Wells Fargo's in the news again. I'm going to talk about that today and go into some detail about their track record and much more. If I could help you in the way of financing on a purchase, refinance, even more importantly, if you are searching for a real estate agent, financial planner, maybe need some tax advice, legal advice on real estate, any of these things, we have a great group of people, a great network here to help you at Real Estate Radio Live, and confident that all of them will treat you in the highest regard. So reach out to us, 408-838-9060, if you need any help in the area of real estate. And also, I'll continue to let you know and point out, I would suggest the paradigm shift is contact us before you do anything with real estate. The most critical thing you need to do in real estate before you do a transaction is to get pre-approved and understand how that works. But we as a group have ways that we could save you money across the board and make sure that you're taken care of in the very best way possible. We'll continue to do that. Contact us before you get ready to buy or sell your house. All right, let's move along. Wells Fargo in the news again. I've done, if you follow the show, you know that I've done shows several. Unfortunately for Wells Fargo, many of us have done a lot of shows about Wells Fargo and not in a good light over the last year or so. And they're in the news again. And this time they're alleged for allegedly overcharging veterans on refinances. And this is just a pile on. So to kind of give you a quick summary, over the last couple of years, Wells Fargo was in the news for fake accounts. They created all those fake accounts, were fined somewhere in the neighborhood of $885 million. 5,000 former employees, 5,000 people were fired. A lot of executives were fired. I think the CEO even resigned after that debacle. And then the bank is also nearing $142 million settlement in a class action lawsuit brought against them by customers affected by these fake accounts. So they're working on that. They also then recently, just 7 days ago apparently, well, these articles are a little bit old. So recently, last couple of weeks, after disclosing the forced placed of auto insurance, so they're fined or agreed to pay another $108 million to the federal government because it looks like, on top of all these other things that they've alleged, is they've forced some payments, auto insurance payments, probably on people that get auto loans through Wells Fargo. I'm guessing. There's not details here. But yet another lawsuit. And then the most recent one, which really is almost, you could talk about one of the most, ruthless, kind of unnerving lawsuit to me out of all of them. None of them are good. But the most recent one is they basically, it looks like they sought out compensation. They sought out and overcharged veterans. And now they're agreeing to pay a little over $100 million for alleged overcharging veterans on refinancing their mortgage. Now, some might say that you don't understand the mortgage business a little bit. Some might say, Joe, how does that happen? How does Wells Fargo specifically, how are they, or anybody else for that matter, able to specifically target a group? Let's say the military or veterans. And the reason why this happens, the reason why I'm guessing, is that for those that don't understand the mortgage business that well, is that there are there's money. There are VA loans. They're called. You probably heard them. VA loans, veteran loans. These loans are specifically designed to help our men and women of the armed services, and they're great programs. For instance, if you're looking for a purchase, there's a lot of them that are 100% financing. You put nothing down. They're specifically geared for the incentives to help our men and women of the armed services, which is great. They need more benefits. They should get more benefits. And so there's a specific VA loan that is called VA financing. You'll hear that talked about. And so the good news is there's VA financing. Here's the challenging part of VA financing when you get underneath the hood and you really understand the way this works with government guaranteed loans. Is they're very expensive in some ways, and they're easy to manipulate. They're easy to manipulate when it comes to rates and charges and credits, and so some loan officers apparently have found out, and apparently Wells Fargo had a system in place where they were overcharging veterans for these refinances. Doesn't say anything about purchases. Maybe it was just a string of refinances. But I guess the bigger topic today I want to just kind of cover is where does it stop and where do you draw the line as a consumer? If you're listening to this podcast, seriously, where do you draw the line? I don't know the numbers, but I know thousands and thousands of people have already taken business away from Wells Fargo, and I don't blame them. Whether you're doing checking or savings with them, mortgages, auto loans, personal loans, I personally would say I would do the same thing. And it's not because they may not be any better or worse than others, but they've been caught. I mean, there may very well be other banks out there that are doing these same things, and maybe they haven't gotten caught. And when, if that comes or another bank is alleged of these violations, then we'll address those one at a time, just like anything else. But this is 4 or 5 major incidents in the last couple of years. So you got to believe, and I do, that this is all culture, senior management from the top down that is allowing this to happen. And someone might well just say, Joe, of course they're not allowing that to happen. But you know what I'm getting at. The leader of the company, the CEO, the senior executives, the directors, the people that run this company, Wells Fargo, and all the people underneath them that report to them, up to these people, they're responsible for them. That's why they're making all the big bonuses and the money. They're responsible for these people. So the question is, why would you be right now as you're listening to this podcast today? Now, some people, I would be interested to find out what camp you're in. Are you in a camp where when something like this comes up, you can't stomach the fact that you're doing business and giving someone money that is treating people like this, and they've been alleged to all these things that have happened. And believe me, there's more than just a coincidence here. There's a lot of this stuff going on. I personally think I wouldn't do business with Wells Fargo. But again, not to pick on them, if someone else comes up and they're in the highlight or in the news like this and they're continually have problems with, basically undermining consumers and overcharging consumers, setting up fake accounts, we could go on and on. Why would you do business with someone like that? Seriously. I know the easy play is take both sides of the fence. Oh, they made a mistake. That's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. But no, I mean, make a choice and take a stance. It doesn't mean a year from now or 5 years from now or something you go back to them if they make amends and they fix things and they prove that they've really turned things around. Everybody deserves that. But right now, they seem to be having a lot of problems. So the question I want to throw out to you, the listener, is to really get you thinking about this. Why would you continue doing business with them? So again, you have someone in the camp that says, I'm not doing business with them anymore because this is obvious of what they're doing. Then you have people, I think, they're in a camp that says, I've been with Wells Fargo for 20 years. I've had a checking account there. It hasn't been wonderful, but I don't want to change my checking and savings. I just don't want the hassle of changing it. Okay, there's probably people in that camp. Then there's people that know this and that are out getting, I'll give you an example because I'm in this world. I live it every day. They know this. They're aware of these all these allegations and all the things that have taken place with Wells Fargo. So I'm going to throw a question out to you. This is not live radio, like you could respond and react, but you can either through email or just thinking about this. So the questions are intended to get engaged in you thinking about this. If you're out knowing all this about Wells Fargo right now, and you're out shopping for a mortgage, and you're talking to someone at Wells Fargo and you're talking to someone at another bank, and let's say Wells Fargo offers you a little better interest rate where it saves you, let's call it $100 a month. Right? It's $100 a month. It's a lot of money. It's a fairly decent sized loan. Maybe it's a $400,000 or $500,000 loan. Maybe a little more, but just stick with me here. So Wells Fargo is offering you a loan and an interest rate. The interest rate's a little bit better. It's saving you approximately $100 a month. The other bank has done a fine job. They've done everything they were supposed to do. They don't have all these allegations. They've got a great track record. They're doing everything they're supposed to do, seemingly. But the rate's a little bit higher. Matter of fact, they can't go any lower, and they say, I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but this is the best we could do, and I hate to say it, but you're going to be paying, nearly, about $100 a month more if you go with us. What would you do? Is there a line? Is there, for instance, is it $50 a month? Is it $100? Is it $200? I guess my question is, knowing what you know about Wells Fargo, is it a principal thing? Do you not do business with them even if you have to pay a little bit more? First of all, my guess is if you looked around, you could probably find someone that would match Wells Fargo. But let's just say this example. There's a reason why I'm doing this. Would you pay more? Would you pay $70, $80, $90, $100 more a month to go with another bank in principle because you don't want to do business with someone that has treated people like this over the last several years and knowingly created programs that undermined people in their privacy and now even the veterans? Would you do business? Is it a principal thing for you? All right, we're going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to continue talking about this. I want to continue this conversation about Wells Fargo in the news again. Allegedly, again, they're going to pay a little over $100 million for overcharging veterans on refinances is yet one of the most recent scandals that is unfortunately clouded over the Wells Fargo umbrella. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I'll be back with you to continue in just a minute.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera of Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We are your go-to resource for all aspects of real estate, including buying, selling, refinancing, building, and legal and tax advice, and much more. You can subscribe to Real Estate Radio Live podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to listen to an engaging discussion about anything and everything real estate. So make sure you get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store to follow the show.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series, as we continue the show. Part 2, segment 2, I should say. In the news again, the topic today, I'm talking a little bit about Wells Fargo. Yet again, another blemish, another scar, to me, it's just super ridiculously sad that, and maybe some people go, oh, well, the CFPB's, picking on Wells Fargo. I don't know what it is, but I could tell you that just recently, again, if you haven't heard, Wells Fargo's agreed to, I think they have to pay a little over $100 million for allegedly overcharging veterans. So they must have settled some kind of lawsuit, my guess is. But this is yet just another blemish on the record. And so the question today I'm talking a little bit about and trying to engage you, the listeners, why would you continue to do business with Wells Fargo knowing this? And so I'm trying to find out a little bit and really getting the thought process in the way of what camp are you in? And what I mean by that, are you in a camp where when you hear something like this, you'll pull your accounts, you don't want anything to do with them because of how they've been treating people? And I understand this is not everybody at Wells Fargo, but you have to understand when a company like this that makes billions and billions and billions of dollars on the back of consumers, and then they turn around and they overcharge or they mislead or they deceive these people, that's not good. And they should pay. And you should take notice. So the question is, what camp are you in? Are you in a camp where you won't do business with them? Are you in a camp where you say, you know what, business is business, everybody does this, I don't care, it hasn't happened to me, I'm going to continue doing business with them? Are you in that camp? Are you in a camp where you're thinking about it? You say, well, you know what, maybe they've just got a little bad luck, I'm going to give them one more try. If one more thing happens, then maybe I'll pull my accounts, I won't do business with them. Be interesting, how do you view this? And I know in a world where information is coming at you 100 miles an hour all day long, I know it's hard to really stop and think about a lot of stuff. But these are the kinds of things, and I'm going to give you some analogies, and I want, again, this is all intended to get you thinking about the way you operate and who you choose to do business with. There's a lot of people out there, right, with the movement of trying to stay as green as possible and as friendly to our environment as possible, right? There's a lot of people that won't buy plastic bottles anymore. There's a lot of people that won't buy plastic bags, paper bags. There's all these things, which are good, by the way, because these people are conscious. There's a lot of people that won't do business with certain companies because they feel like they're doing an injustice or inservice, in other words, to the environment. Okay, we could do tons of shows just on this, but you understand what I'm saying. There are a lot of people that have taken stands and they're going, I'm not buying these food products, these makeup products, these products from this store or this manufacturer because I know they do something that hurts our environment, that hurts animals. I could go on and on. So you get my point, right? So you take a stand. These people take stands. And this is just one example of a group, many groups that take stands, and I think it's great. So where are you in taking a stand on this? Here's my point. I know a lot of people that will pay more money at Whole Foods or other places because they don't want to do business with someone that's not selling something that's organic. They don't want to do business with someone that's selling something they think it hurts the environment. They don't want to do business with someone that's selling something that may hurt animals. They don't want to do something or do business with someone that is selling something that is discriminatory against a certain race. These are all great stands and great topics. But here's my point. Is not doing business with Wells Fargo any different than any of those? Think about it. Why is that any different? Why is that any different? For those that are stand takers, for these people that take stands on things, why wouldn't this be any different? Knowingly that these things have taken place and knowing that it's not just a coincidence, it's been 4 or 5 incidents in the last several years, why wouldn't you take a stand when there's hundreds of other banks to choose from, and credit unions, by the way, and other people that lend money? So the question I posed right before I ended the first segment, and I'll pose it again. If you're out shopping for a mortgage or a loan, doesn't matter, auto loan, but let's just say mortgage for this sake, and Wells Fargo is offering you a little better rate, and your competitors are a little bit higher, and it's somewhere between $60 and $70 a month. I used the example earlier of $100. We could stick with $100 too to keep things consistent. Knowing what you know about the other things that you out there you take stands on, whether it's the environment, whether it's race, whether it's certain businesses, whether you think people discriminate, we go on and on. Where do you stand here on Wells Fargo? Does it not matter because you think, are you a person that thinks, hey, Wells Fargo's great for the economy. They're not hurting, for instance, they're not hurting the environment. They're not polluting the environment. They don't sell plastic bottles. So Why should I care? And then again, that's an example. I'm not I'm not accusing people of just saying if they don't sell plastic bottles, they're okay. I'm saying as an example, do you take a stand only when it is dear to your heart? Do you take a stand because you're one of these type of people that cares about other people and the environment, and in general, you're a good citizen overall? Or do you pick and choose the stands in which you take? Most of us probably pick and choose the stands in which we take. And this could be a little closer to me, and what I see is because I'm in this business. I know how hard people work to gain trust, and I know the blemish and the reputation on banks over the years because the conservative nature in which they lend and the really the lack of customer satisfaction that takes place in the banking industry. So I know there's millions of people out there trying to work hard to change that image. And then you get someone like Wells Fargo that basically just says, you know what, it's kind of the too big to fail type thing, right? Kind of along the same lines. We're one of the biggest lenders in the world, in the United States certainly. We have the majority of the mortgages. We think we can control the world, and we could do what we want. I'm not suggesting that's what they say, but that's what it feels like sometimes. So where do you stand on this? Again, would you do business with Wells Fargo because they're giving you a little better rate? If you're saving $100 a month on a mortgage or $50 a month, does it make a difference? Do you have a break point? In other words, you might say, Joe, I'll tell you what, up to $100 a month, I'm good. If it goes over that, it's tough because it comes to my family, my retirement, my investments. I don't want to pay $150 a month more just out of principle. Okay, I mean, that's, we all respect everybody's opinion on all this stuff, but what camp are you in on this is my question to really think about today on this podcast. Where do you take a stand? What camp are you in? There's hundreds of banks out there you could do business with. There's banks that don't charge you for checking. There's banks that have great service. Credit unions are known a little bit more for their service. Now, some people will say there's a lot of cross-selling going on with a place like Wells Fargo, and it happens all over the place, by the way, not just Wells Fargo. When you get that big, they're constantly cross-selling you on everything. They've did it to me for years, and I totally understand it. It doesn't matter if you're online or you walk into the bank or you go to the ATM, they are cross-selling 24. They want you to work with Wells Fargo advisors. That's another interesting story, by the way, with a couple minutes left in this podcast. If you're a Wells Fargo financial advisor, what are you thinking? How does this affect your business? How do you have that brand on your name when you're supposed to be protecting people's money and their assets and educating on them how to invest when you have a company that's running an operation with these type of allegations? That's interesting. You know, because Wells Fargo has private services where they manage your money. And when you package all this stuff together, when you bundle services, guess what? They give you better rates and programs and fees and do different things, which again, there's nothing against that. That's a lot of companies do that. The idea, though, again, in this podcast today is to get you thinking a little bit about the choices you make and the stands you take against product service advisors, someone like Wells Fargo. Why is this any different than anybody else? I know people that won't buy certain clothes. I know people that won't buy certain groceries, foods, perfumes, makeups, hair products. I go on, and you, if you're listening to this, you know this too, because they take a stand. It's bad for the environment, Joe. It's bad for the animals. It's bad for a certain race. They discriminate. I'm not going to do business with them. Good, great. Take a stand. I love it. But is this different? Is it different because you look at Wells Fargo as someone that's not hurting they're not hurting the environment. They're not throwing, illegal gases up in the air by ripping people off of some of these transactions. They're not selling you plastic bottles. They're not doing anything apparently to hurt animals. So is it different? Do you have a different stance on that? that's the idea of the show today, is to get you thinking a little bit about it. And is it different? It'd be nice to hear from people. If you want to email, you know how to email me. You can always go to reradiolive.com. And email, you can always reach out, 408-838-9060. I love feedback. I love interaction and love this information to hear back from the consumers and people what they think. But we're about ready to run out of time, so I'm finishing it up. And just the idea again, before you make decisions with any of these things, that happens to be that Wells Fargo is in the news. Tomorrow, next week, there could be someone else in the news that we're talking about. But this was about taking a stand. This is about principle. How do you view that? How do you compare it? And that's what the show was about today. I hope you got some value in it. All right, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in. For more information, you can always go to reradiolive.com. Until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at reradiolive.com.